ability to live in a country where there's the potential for upward mobility.
Meanwhile, Ocasio-Cortez firing back. She tweeted this: as a person who actually worked for tips and hourly wages in my life, instead of having to learn about it secondhand, I can tell you that most people want to be paid enough to live. A living wage isn't a gift, it's a right. Writes Ocasio-Cortez. Workers are often paid far less than the value they create. During the conversation this morning, Wired contributor Zach Carabell is with us this morning, along with National Taxpayers Union Senior Fellow and Forward Strategies President Mattie Duppler. Great to see you both.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Zachary, nice to see you again.
You too, Maria.
Thanks so much for joining us, Dig. And this is getting worse and worse with Ocasio-Cortez. First, got to get your reaction to that exchange last night, Ivanka Trump, and then she fires back, Ocasio-Cortez.
This is kind of the classic, you go after something Cardi B says for attention. I'm not equating Ivanka Trump with Cardi B, but this is AOC's mastery of social media, that she continues to create attention for herself by going after the president's daughter, by going after somebody who is equally famous to get us to talk about it.
And let's not forget,
but again, it's like, you know what, you're not the only one. We've all worked for tips, and we still believe that in part in some of the things that Ivanka Trump was saying. So just, you're not the only lady who ever waited tables, okay? AOC.
Right. And let's not forget that part of this is to distract from the frequently asked questions that AOC put out as a part of her New Deal, which didn't talk about a minimum wage as much as it talked about a guaranteed job for those who were unwilling to work. And she hasn't really answered the question of how that would work, how you would have a federal mandate that would give someone a job who doesn't want a job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of inconsistencies in the economic policy that AOC has stated that I think is really, really problematic. And it's not just this notion of a living wage. I think Ivanka Trump has made clear that a living wage is not the problem. It's the mandates that are proposed by AOC that seem unworkable.
Look, I think there's a reason that the Senate Democrats, as well as the people who say that they endorse it, are hard-pressed to actually come out and say, yeah, this is going to work, and I want to get behind these in the current numbers. And as our friend James Freeman writes this morning in the Journal in his op-ed, the AOC primary, Senate Democrats would vote present to avoid a public intra-party fight, said activists, lawmakers, and congressional aides. So, you know, this whole idea that they're going to have to vote whether or not they're going to actually put their name to this Green New Deal, it tells you a lot about where they are on this.
You know, on your Cardi B point, I mean, look, AOC, as we all know, is doing a really good job being the left's version of Donald Trump insofar as using social media to gain much more traction, Donald Trump pre-2016, much more traction than she has with any actual voting power. She's a freshman congresswoman with junior status. So there's just that, and she's doing a very good job of it. The other one is, there's a lot of muddle here, and some of the muddle is negative, but some of the muddle plays to a debate that's been going on for a while, which is there has been discussions of universal basic income that has some degree of left and more pragmatic mayors and municipalities who are dealing with the fact that the way in which we distribute a safety net in this country, which exists and costs, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars, is unbelievably ineffective and very costly to channel that. So there is actually a pragmatic argument, and I'm not saying that's going to be settled, for a living wage being distributed without question, because you would remove, in theory, a lot of the bureaucracy that is in charge of distributing it, which would save a lot of money while simultaneously distributing a safety net.
I meant no disrespect for Cardi B, by the way. And I think Cardi B, I follow her on Instagram, and she is a lot smarter on economic points than AOC is, because Cardi B is living her life.
Respects the hustle.
And speaking from her gut and her brain. Number one. Number two.
Next guest.
Well, let's not forget, I mean, Ivanka Trump started her own business and hired people and gave out paychecks and signed the bottom line of people's checks. So, you know, I mean, to attack her after what she's done her entire life. I mean, yes, she comes from wealth, but she also started her own business, and now look what she's doing. Traveling the country, trying to come up with work skills solutions, as well as really putting her business on the side to serve this country. So shame on her
well, and shaming any member of the Trump family really kind of is in the left's kind of core playbook. So this is to be expected. So I just want to point this out, because I can't say this as well as Grace Marie Turner can. She it runs the Galen Institute, a Public Policy Institute for Free Market Health Care Solutions. And she writes this about AOC really quickly. She leads, talking about AOC, she leads a generation of young people who take pride in their ignorance of the laws of nature, of history, of the Constitution, of the eternal battle for freedom, and still succeed. She has soared because of the freedom and prosperity her policies would destroy. Our attention to her fuels her celebrity and therefore her ideas. Time to get over our fascination and move on.
Yeah, good one.
Amen.
We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we got to talk about Lowe's. The earnings are better than expected. The revenue is a